Where's the man?
Good evening. I'm told it is 5:30 PM on Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. And this regular meeting of the Sandpoint Planning and Zoning Commission is now called to order in council chambers at City Hall, 1123 West Lake Street, Sandpoint, Idaho. For the record, I am Chairman John Hastings presiding. Also present are Commissioners Grant Simmons, Slate Camp, Amelia Boyd, Ben McGran, Wayne Brenner. Most uncle is absent this evening. And we're accurate on that, right? I didn't have a chance to check. We will now recite the Pledge of Allegiance, if everyone will please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Quick announcement, there are assisted listening devices. If anybody's in need of them, seeing no public in the room, that probably is not necessary. Are there any other general announcements from the commissioners or from city staff? Commissioners, yes.
Chair?
Yes.
I just want to say that last Thursday's workshop was excellent. And I want to just thank staff and everybody that was involved in putting it together, because I think they did a really good job. And I heard a lot of good feedback, positive feedback. I did get corralled into the other room next door for a little bit, an hour and a half with a city council member listening to their side of the story. But other than that, I think it was excellent. So. And the presentation information, including what was presented that we asked for.
And I'm told we were well represented there. Most of the commissioners made.
That's here today, attended.
All right, excellent. Good, good, good.
And hopefully drug along some others with us. Yeah, it seemed really well attended, at least for, yeah, swung by a couple times and it was packed house.
And I would certainly also like to say thank you to those who commented online. If you didn't attend the meeting in person, but I truly went through and read every comment that some people had made on the online. Well, and so thank you to those of you who participated in that. Anything else from commissioners, city staff? All righty. Next on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes. I will first entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the March 28th meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. And second?
Second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Minutes are approved. We have a second one. I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the April 4th meeting. Again, looking for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second? Outstanding. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion also passes and the minutes are approved. Thank you. The next item on the agenda this evening is an overview of and the input on the comprehensive plan draft document. And I will now yield the floor to City Planner Amy Tweeten for an introduction of this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Commissioner Benner. And thank all of you for attending. It was great to see all of you there at different times, because we were there from 11 to 6:30, and I don't think there was maybe a half hour that we didn't have people coming through. So I'll give you a little bit of the numbers, but it was hard to estimate the number. We estimated at 70, but we only got about 43 people signing in. But a lot of people that showed up didn't actually sign in. But yeah, I think overall it was, I think people appreciate, a lot of people came for the multimodal, so it really did behoove us to do them together, because we would not have had the attendance if it had just been the comp plan, I'm quite sure. So with that, again, we're estimated at 70 with maybe, you know, it's hard to know. We know 43 people signed in, but just given the constant turnover of people, 70 seems like a good number to estimate. And again, that Conveo site is still live. As of today, it's had 532 views. 104 comments. 15 of those are from the open house. So when people are filling out those sheets, the consultants were actually putting them right into the document. And then we had some either correction things, or you'll see like this logo's cut off. There'll be admin, and then there's some of mine as well. But so, I mean, I guess with that, what are the commission's reactions to format?
I just have one question, and that was of the 104 comments. Do you know how many were from unique individuals? Did you keep track of that?
Yes, there is that. She does have that statistic, and I can't remember it. I want to say it was like there aren't that many unique individuals.
Right, I noticed that there was several individuals
Right.
who provided a lot
But
of
they do have that
positive
statistic
input, but
on
it
how-
were correct, yeah.
I'll get you that.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Any other commissioners have?
Folks are passionate. You're right about the multimodal,
Yes.
100%. I mean, that's where the conversations were. But there was a lot of education happening around the park plans and what's actually in the comp plan, because I don't think folks quite snapped to what it is. I know I didn't until I showed up here, so. Yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting to be a fly on the wall and hear the commentary around the multimodal. Yeah, feels like it's gonna be a sticky wicket for a bit.
Mm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Did it feel like to you that the multimodal stuff was remarks and comments were negative? Mostly?
You know, I wasn't really on that. A lot of it, people were just looking for clarification and trying to understand. You know, they had heard something, and how does that impact that? And can we do it this way? So I think a lot of it was just trying to understand what was shown, why it was shown that way. And I don't know if the commission is aware, it is on the agenda for council tomorrow to amend that one exhibit, but they're going to pull it, and they're not going to go forward
I
with
saw that.
amending. I think it's figure 23. But yeah, it certainly got people out. There's no question.
Oh, that's good.
For the brief time that I was there, the gentleman who was doing the presenting on that, I don't know him. And I don't know if that changed throughout the day or not, but everything I saw was really, I mean, in terms of his presentation, his interaction with the public, it was very positive, and I certainly didn't see anybody being confrontational, which we have seen more of the confrontational stuff perhaps on social media and elsewhere, but.
Yeah, we had, that would have been Eric Bush. So he's one of our construction managers. Holly Ellis was there as well as Amanda. And then we had Megan and Miriam. So we had quite a crew there, but like I said, almost at all times, one of us or multiple of us were talking to somebody to explain something. So we weren't overly staffed.
And I think certainly with, and you can give me, and I don't know, how involved are you on the multimodal plan?
Not, I will be now
Okay,
with, and for those of you who aren't aware, Amanda is leaving. So we just, our new civil engineer just started, Brendan Stagland, and he and I will be he'll be coming at multimodal from the transportation or engineering side, and I'll be coming at the planning side, so.
because I think
I'll
that's
be more involved.
part of the issue is the uncertainty.
Mhm.
There's a lot of possibilities, but nothing's written in stone yet. I think the public thinks some things are written in stone. That's not my perspective, at least that it is, but I think that's the apprehension, is the uncertainty element of what's happening, but.
And when you look particularly at Highway 2, there are a lot of conceptual changes, you know, I mean, when people started seeing that LA extension, they're like, what? I
Right,
mean, there's lots of
And we're also not alone in,
access management changes that are shown in the plan.
because we have ITD to deal with as well. I mean,
At
there's
some-
they
at
have
some
the
point,
final
yeah.
word.
Right.
So it's not like cities making the decision and this is what we're going for. It would be not, be nice, but that's not how it works.
And explaining that to people, I think, was you know, I mean, for example, where the parking lots are, people didn't know that ITD already owns that, so.
Yeah.
They're gonna do something, they, you know, they may turn it into a park, but probably not. But, yeah. It was good.
Where did, see, I think I read it in the reader. Oh, no, actually, there was a page there about remembering the curve or re-envisioning the curve.
Yes.
Oh, that was the back page
Yeah,
of last week's reader.
that was interesting, but that's not a consideration.
No, that's a consideration of an individual. Who, and it
Wishful
was the
thinking.
granaryddistrict.com is who had put it in. You know, it was basically showing all the ITD properties, parklands. Which, you know, unless they really decide they don't need that a highway and they want to sell the property. But we also know that people are concerned that should the road happen, those parking lots go away, and then where do the cars go? So. Either way, that area is used by vehicles, could be used, you know, more multimodally, with improvements, but. Yeah, that was just a concept of a private individual, just a thought provoking, I think.
Yeah. Pardon my confusion on where I saw it. What I saw in the reader was an article where they interviewed the mayor, and the mayor said that the couplet idea will be shelved temporarily.
That is the amendment. It's not that the couplet will be shelved because the couplet's not moving forward at this time anyway. What is not being acted on is an amendment to the plan that would show Boyer teeing into two, where Dubs is, because the
Mhm.
city's purchasing Dubs. So currently it's just showing, I don't think it's no access onto two, but it would be turning that and using the Dubs part so that you had a basically a perpendicular intersection at Boyer and the highway. So it's that was the only thing that was going to be changed in the multimodal plan that has already been adopted, but because that brought up all of these other
Yeah.
concerns, there's just like, okay, we just won't amend it at this time. We'll just put it on the back burner. What is moving ahead though is that relocation of the traffic signal from Church to Pine. So they're going to be starting to engineer that, I believe, yet this year.
And part of that will be two-way traffic all the way through, correct?
Will there be a sign there for, you know, trucks not allowed over 2 tons or whatever, or is it gonna be the same like it was? Cause there was just a lot of heavy truck traffic when it was 2-way.
That's probably to be determined.
I mean, like logging.
It will be a local, you know, from the traffic signal east, it's still gonna be a local street. It's not gonna be the highway. But again, if we do that, then you're gonna have all the, I guess the intent is to have all the trucks go up to either take Boyer, get on the bypass, or take Fifth and get on the bypass.
Cause I'm just thinking of, you know, pedestrian and bicycle traffic, you know, on that,
On Pine.
on Pine
Mhm.
be included. But, you know, it's because when it was 2-way, I just remember so many logging trucks through there and traffic being backed up until to the two. And just, you know, if we can, if, I don't, would ITD be responsible for those limitations?
Well, if it's not the highway, it's not ITD. It
So
would be
it's
the city
the city.
deciding.
Cause I'm just thinking with, you know, especially that transition when you're riding your bike down Pine and you want to make that left on 4th. You know, you have to, it's tricky.
Mhm.
Tricky there, so.
But I think eventually Pine gets removed as a truck route. From the, this is old multimodal plans. But I think that maybe even the drawing illustrated in red line that pine wasn't a red line in the drawing. Because the red line was the truck route, but I don't think it's there. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a designated truck route by any means. Will trucks be prohibited from using it? That is something that the city's gonna have to decide.
Changing gears slightly,
Yes.
most of the comments that I saw online to the comprehensive plan, the master plan here that we're working on, were to continue to emphasize pedestrian traffic, whether that's on foot or bike or anything else.
Yeah.
And I guess a question for commissioners and city planner, is there anything that you see should be, or maybe this is coming up, is there anything you see that should be looked at more thoroughly, more robustly in terms of our master plan for continuing to ensure ease of access for pedestrians? Or I should say, non-motorized traffic perhaps, but.
I would agree that that is the predominant comment, that there's lots of comments about non-motorized pedestrians, sidewalk. Generally, and it's hard because as the spreadsheet that has all the comments, it's not, whatever format it is, I can't do a word cloud, but the general themes when you go through that, the one that has the most comments by an individual, which I think was over 50, and the majority of those comments were about additional emphasis needed on the importance of walking, biking, transit, both infrastructure to reduce vehicles and probably policies. You know, I can look through it. I think the plan already has a pretty strong message that we emphasize pedestrians and bicyclists. But, I think she gave a lot of really good, thoughtful comments. So I can look through. I don't know that we need to add it 50 more times because I do think that message is in the plan. But that was definitely the biggest, and it wasn't just the one individual that commented on that.
Right.
Several people did. And then another comment was on the importance of downtown parking. Some of it was that we need it, and that, some of the comments, or at least one or two, were, it's great to be talking pedestrian bike, but we do have people driving to our town and we have to accommodate that. Some of there was a comment on downtown parking that we could turn parking into parklets. And then just discussion of parking structure. So that, parking was probably one of the next highest often cited comments in that list. Several comments about urban forest and making sure when we're updating codes that we consider urban for, like, even in zoning, are we providing flexibility when someone builds on a site? If they want to protect a big tree, they're probably not going to qualify for a variance from a setback, but do we have flexibility that if that's what you're doing, something, there's some flexibility or some incentive in zoning to protect large trees? And then there were several comments, and there was a gentleman there that had a lot of comments and concerns about, particularly about fire ability to do we have stations where we need them, and just making sure with growth that we are addressing those public safety services. But other than that, really the comments were across the board.
And I saw the online comments. I did not see, I had a difficult time pulling up the other document with the compilation of in-person comments. The Excel file.
Okay.
It was jumbled when I tried to pull it up. But
yeah, this is what I was trying to make it into a more legible spreadsheet, but this this, I had sent out to you. So these are all the individual comments, you know, when they came in. There's a lot more information in this that I removed. But you know, there's some comments on ACI, some people. There were a couple comments just making to the effect that when we're negotiating the ACI to make sure that you know, what we value in terms of parks and multimodal is designed for in the ACI. And then just, you know, making sure that when things are coming into the city, they're not so out of conformance already that now we have areas of the city that just don't fit the rest of the city. But, you know, so there were ACI comments. There were a few comments on building height and addressing it in the code. Had discussions with a couple people on the new ADU at the corner of Boyer and
Is that what that is?
that is an accessory dwelling unit. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And it's especially dramatic because it's next to a single family home.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's
and a single story with a two-story coming up, yeah.
Right.
So
very
that's on that
tall-
same lot?
Yes,
And
that's a
that's-
33
big
foot
lot, though.
tall.
That's a big lot. There's been room there, yeah.
Yeah.
But that-
So, I mean, when things like that happen, it gets people's out there like, what do you mean? That could actually be taller. In that, because an
She'll go up a little
ADU
bit.
is allowed to go as tall as the district height.
And is that
So
within
those
this-
are the kinds of things, again, when I bring back, I still don't have all the answers on the changes to the ADU things, but those are the kinds of discussions.
Yeah.
Do we want to put limitations on the height of,
Well, that's within the square footage limits of ADUs? Because wow,
it is.
And that's 35%.
Remember, 900 square feet is quite large.
right, yeah,
Yeah,
it looks bigger than that.
Yeah, 900 square feet is a nice double
Yeah.
car garage.
But
so that,
Sure.
and then building heights downtown as well.
yes, Mr. Chair.
I think that we should probably take a look at height restriction on ADU.
Oh, absolutely. I've seen ADUs taller than and bigger than,
That's
main house.
33.
Hmm?
That one was 33, you say?
That was 33 feet.
So why
Could
restrict
go
it
to
on
40,
ADUs
correct,
then?
Sarah? Because that's in the RM district, that could be 40 feet tall.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
that kind of
Mr.
leads
Brenner.
me to one of my questions or concerns. Here again with the height of the buildings,
Mhm.
and you happen to be one of the buildings next door, and you have a solar panel in your house and you lose your solar rights. How do we address that? Because more and more people are starting to rely on solar or some means of getting climate to your home. And I mean, if I got a greenhouse out there, somebody builds a big house like that and blocks the sun, then you lose that aspect.
Right.
So how do we address that?
Hmm.
In these tall buildings.
right. It can be addressed, I mean, either through height limitations or setbacks.
Yeah.
So that it couldn't be close enough, but
But that also goes to wind. You get these tall buildings and you get a north wind coming with the snow. And what you're doing is just creating a snow dump on the other side of it. So if you're the small house on the other side, you're gonna get a lot of snow.
Hmm.
Because they act as a snow fence.
I remember earlier this year, we were talking about making some small modifications to the ADU, but we tabled it saying that there was going to be a whole revision of that when we finished this process. Is that correct?
I've been working on the revisions.
Okay,
And those will be coming to you soon. But again, it's not, you know, it was changing just to 2 bedrooms and it's much bigger than that.
right.
Huh,
No pun intended.
No
Yeah.
pun intended, but, it just the way the code is currently structured, we have garage regulations different than accessory building regulations are in multiple places, so we just want to get it all cleaned up at once. But I think that based on the feedback we got through the housing and neighborhoods, we know the direction. Although we don't know 100% the direction, because the kinds of things we're gonna have to work through are heights and design criteria. Because currently an attached ADU needs to match the existing house, but detached does not. So there are still some
And I know
things we kind of need to work through.
I know it's extremely ambiguous, but is there wording for ADUs such as the being harmonious with the neighborhood as we have with other?
John, you know, we're trying to get away from that language.
Well, good. I know, that's why I said it's ambiguous, but that's, yes. So what you're talking about is coming
But with the principal structure,
with the principles, not the neighborhood, but principal structure.
right, because it's accessory to that building.
Gotcha.
So either the height's relevant relative to the principal structure, or it's architecturally similar to the principal structure. But I don't think we'd want to talk about a harmonious with the neighborhood.
I know, Matt, I was just bringing that up
Okay,
because it's never been anything we've been able to stick with anyway.
right.
But, yeah.
And my understanding from Sarah is ADUs used to have a 26-foot height limit. And then that was removed. And again, it's understandable when we remove, like, when we're trying to get something and encourage something, we tend to remove restrictions, and then that sometimes brings it the other way. We certainly have, I don't know if we've had any ADUs in the last year that haven't been above garages.
Mhm.
Just, just an ADU in a backyard. So is there a way to maybe incentivize those instead?
If a lot is large enough to actually be subdivided, but they don't subdivide it, is it still just considered an ADU then?
Yes, and an ADU cannot be subdivided from its principal structure. It has to be on the
Right,
same
right.
lot.
But if it was a large lot, you could subdivide it and build a second home. If it was large enough.
Yes, you
But if
could,
you don't subdivide it, it's an ADU and subject to those requirements.
exactly. So I guess, I had sent out the comments. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to get it. There's also, I was just gonna pull up. I did send the document. I did. No, but it was the other, it was the actual Conveo site, so let's see if I can.
But while we're on break, Commissioner, I have a question for
Yes.
Sarah.
Well.
Do you know when the ADU height from 26 to 40 was changed?
Yes, I believe April of 2021. When we had Darren, our interim city planner. There were a couple changes. The height went from 26 to the height of the underlying zone. The setbacks used to be 10 feet from property lines. They went to 5 feet from property lines. And that was when the square footage increased from 650 to 900.
2021.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I mean,
Graham.
my thoughts are that I think that we do want to facilitate and enable people to do these things on their property. I understand the constraints about the surrounding, but I think that the idea of it being it has to blend in with the principal structure, I think is a good way to try to acknowledge that harmonious look, right? So it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb, but I don't feel that we should go the opposite direction and try to be more restrictive on ADUs. I just think that maybe we need to add some clarifying description of, we want it to be commensurate with the principal structure so that we don't get these odd looking structures.
There's a lot of those.
Just trying to find a page. Okay, whoops, there I went.
What was the timeline again for this going to council, the comp plan?
So, hang on,
I forgot.
I
I want to say June.
was, well, my next goal is to get it on a council agenda. So this is the process that was laid out. And ideally, if we can get a joint
That's right.
meeting scheduled with the commission and council, do that and then start scheduling the public hearings. And that's the challenge, is getting that meeting scheduled, but,
If the commission felt there was a need to make any changes to the document at this point,
Yeah.
when would that take place?
I would say the commission should give direction sooner than later. So that we have we call it a final draft now. When it goes to a public hearing, we should have any changes that the commission feels are needed incorporated.
And after that public hearing, then there still could be changes brought about by city staff, commission, or city council, correct?
Yes, right. And but part of the reason to do the workshop is to, let's talk through them, make sure that, because waiting to the public hearing to make what we bring to public hearing, we want to have as final as possible.
Mhm.
Not that we're not hearing from the public, because we've tried to bring them along the whole time. But
Well, like
Yeah.
I noticed this evening's meeting is listed as discussion, so it would be inappropriate to make any changes this evening. But we would need to have that scheduled at a future meeting of ours if we felt
Right.
there was a need to make any changes, and I guess just kind of a testing the waters. Are there any commissioners think that is something we need to schedule, or are we fairly confident with the document in its current form?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it probably warrants some time to maybe dig into it. I think that we've gone through a couple of draft versions, and I know that one comment I had was about linking some of the other documents that are related to this. I'm not sure if those links have been created yet or not. One call out was the design guidelines for downtown.
Right, so the downtown waterfront competition and the, although it could well be before we adopt the watershed recreation plan, that's another appendix, and that hasn't been adopted yet, so we don't have a live link. So those are two that would come back and get amended as appendices. Yeah, we don't have those documents yet.
Right. So I think, not only is it important to have what's in the document, but what's not in it, I think is just as important. Like what are we not going to have in the document that maybe we would expect to have, or that is going to come at a later date? And I'm not sure if that's documented in there yet or not.
It should be, let me just see on the appendices.
And Amy, while you look for that, I'd like to add that it would be best if the commission has provided all of their comments and corrections or suggested changes before you go to your workshop with council. That's just from a timing perspective, that would be my recommendation.
That makes sense.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think some time to digest the comments that were sent and to correlate the draft plan versus those comments would be prudent for us to determine if we need to incorporate any of that in or not.
What is the posting time on that? I mean, we could for our next meeting, post that,
Right, yeah, I mean, that,
that amendments may be
Ideally-
made, but yes.
right, ideally, I got you the wrap up as of today. But we are gonna be receiving, we're closing it on May 7th. So, I guess if we'll put back on the agenda, discussion and direction for changes on your meeting on the 16th.
But it would have to be not discussion, it would have to be an action item that we indeed may be making changes at that point.
No, it doesn't have to be.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, because you're
Okay.
just providing direction at this point. Your action items will come after the public hearing.
Oh, excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
So fun, it's direction on changes.
Correct.
Okay.
Corrections, suggested changes on the draft so that your commission has a draft that they are comfortable with when you go into the workshop with city council. Because then city council is going to give potentially some direction on some revisions before it goes to the first public hearing in front of planning and zoning. And the reason you don't want it an action item anytime before your public hearing is you don't want the public to think that you are approving it without their commentary, because you're not. You're just,
Excellent.
you're just trying to get a really good solid draft in front of the public for those public hearings.
Okay, yep, perfect.
So back to what's on the agenda tonight is discussion and direction. So if commissioners had anything specific tonight. But again, I know you didn't get the comments until today, so what we can do is just have that for
More discussion next
the
time.
16th.
Mhm. Commissioner Simmons, were you gonna?
My only question is going into the city council meeting, are there things, or would it be worth coming up with things that we need to make sure are directed or addressed by city council? So is there anything particularly interesting or needing to be addressed that we need to direct their attention to?
I'm not sure I'm understanding the question.
In terms of sitting down at the workshop with city council, is there anything particular that we know we need to step out of that meeting? Other than just, it's a blessing of the comp plan as it's going to be presented to the public.
Well, what is going to that joint meeting, if the commission is saying this is our recommended draft.
Can I pipe in a little bit?
Please,
It's a good time to walk the council through your process so far. So Amy will be able to provide a timeline. You guys can provide your own input on, some of your suggested changes along the way and why you made them. And then it'll be a great just opportunity to have dialogue with the council on maybe something that they see that you guys didn't catch. And I don't think there's going to be any need to have any directed or prepared for conversations with council. It's just an opportunity to have an open dialogue about the current state of the draft at that point.
Cool. Thanks.
Ms. Tweet, do you have anything else for us at this time?
I don't believe so.
Commissioners, any further questions for staff? Do we have public wishing to enter the discussion this evening? If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand at this time.
We have no public on Zoom at the moment.
Okay. So we can. So that would be the end of our discussion on this particular agenda item. Oh, I stand corrected.
Want to get back to Commissioner McGrath's question. So in the appendices, I believe what you're referring to are that E and F. which are those two reports that we don't have yet.
Which page are you referring to?
If you look at the screen,
Oh,
so appendix E is going to be the report that comes out of the downtown design competition. Because we anticipate as a part of that, there will be recommendations for possible code changes, policy changes. And then the Little Sand Creek Watershed Recreation Master Plan, I believe it is possible that will be adopted before this plan, but that is really a master plan for the watershed property.
so what I was referring to is within the draft comp plan that I was reading through, there was reference to current existing design guidelines for downtown that exist.
There are some very general guidelines in the commercial A zoning district. So if you let me know where
Okay.
it is.
I'll go back and look through the comments that I had, but
Okay.
it was similar to how there was a attachment that directed you to the airport's plan, master plan.
Okay. So it was it one over here. I'm gonna not scroll this for you. I'll scroll it. Let's see here. Because I know there's that page that links several other documents. So it may have been this page.
Oh, I sent a note to you, said example would be downtown design guidance mentioned on page 32.
Page 32. Almost there, sorry. This is the page.
Yeah, that paragraph, third paragraph, a separate document of design guidelines for downtown was established in 2012.
Okay. Yeah, that was for the streetscape. That is what the downtown streetscape is based on, but I will.
That was not building design.
Right,
as much as
right.
street-
It
as
was
much
a,
as
it
street
was a
design.
downtown streetscape design guideline document, but I will clarify that.
I think that was a general comment of there's a lot of documents that feed in and out of this. And
Mhm.
to have an ability to link to them would be nice. So that you don't have to go and search for it.
Well, right, and I think at one point that may have, but that actually, that document was actually pulled into the multimodal transportation plan. And I think the concepts for that are actually appendices in the multimodal plan now.
Mhm.
So that's why we didn't link it. Cause it's cause that, to your point, we have to bring along all these past plans. And without referring directly, we talk about that. But I believe that those concepts are actually incorporated. In fact, it does in the next paragraph. It talks about, again, the downtown streets plan and design guide were completed. that those phases. And then, and then it says, see the concept plan and the multimodal transportation plan. That concept came from the downtown streets, but I understand when you're reading it, it's confusing, so
Mhm.
I'll clarify that somehow.
Okay.
And so before we move on, I'll try and do a little recap here and anybody correct me if needed, but so the next time we'll visit this document is with the city council in a joint workshop.
No.
No.
You will be discussing this at your May 16th meeting.
And what we'll be doing at that time.
Again, the commission will have a chance to read through the comments, see if there are changes that you feel should be incorporated based on those comments
Prior to the meeting with city council,
before meeting with city council, right?
which has not been established yet.
Not been scheduled.
And then after that, it will go to public comment. And after that, we'll look at final revisions.
You'll make your changes.
Mhm.
We'll schedule the joint workshop. At that point, that is your proposed draft. Council will give its input if additional changes are needed. And then at that point, when it's to the point that the commission and council are comfortable moving forward to public hearing, then it will go through the formal public hearing process.
Thank you. And final adoption will come from city council sometime in the middle of the summer. Is that about what we're looking at?
That is the goal.
Excellent. Any other thoughts, commissioners, or discussions on that? Okay. So we'll open up the commissioners roundtable, which is just general discussion on anything pertinent to our work. Anybody have anything for that?
Mr. Chair, do we
Yes.
have any upcoming reviews that are in the near future?
Not for your May 16th meeting, but most likely for your, we have received an application for a conditional use permit for a cell tower up on Baldy Mountain. And that requires a conditional use permit. So that will likely be at your first meeting in June.
Thank you.
Okay. Are you all right if we adjourn this meeting? Then with no further business before the commission, this meeting is now adjourned at 6:17 PM. Thank you.
Thank you.